Hey, what up, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another game preview. We are previewing Game 6 of the New York Knicks facing the Boston Celtics. This time they are back in Madison Square Garden, facing off tomorrow at 8 p.m. All right, hopefully this time around they can close it out, send the Celtics home. Please, for the love of God, do not torture us with any more games. And with me today to help preview this game is none other than my guy, Greg Maneikis. He covers the Boston Celtics for Green with Envy podcast, part of that Blue Wire family, just like KFTV, man. So hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. Also, watch party. We're going back at slate, man, all right? We're going back at slate this time at 6 p.m. because the game starts at 8. So make sure to get to the doors at 6. Get on in there, get your drink swag on, go chill out with all the rest of the orange and blue faithful. And I'm talking about the Knicks, not the Mets, because that day I do know we got Subway Series. And look, man, as a diehard Yankees fan, sorry, people, I just can't do that. Can't do that. But make sure to get the slate at 6, all right? Make sure to get the slate at 6. All right, man, let's get into this. Just had to take care of a few housekeeping items. Greg, how you feeling today, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, man. I'm glad that we have a game to preview. I didn't think after game 4 that we'd be having this conversation. So I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm happy for one more game.
I'm sure that's what the Celtics are feeling right now. I'm just happy to be here, man. We're going back to, try this one more time. And for me, man, look, as we were talking about behind the scene, went down to New York, working on 3 hours of sleep right now, but went down to New York, was hoping that was going to be a celebratory night where the Knicks, move on to the ECF, which been since 2000 since they've done that. All right. But now they get the opportunity to win it at home, which they haven't done to move on to the next round since 1999. So they get this opportunity to go against the Boston Celtics. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. I still got faith in the Knicks, as I'm sure you still have faith in your Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into the details, man. Let's just recap game 5. And just from your perspective, Knicks are up. They're up 3-1 going into this matchup. What were some of your takeaways of what the Knicks did well or didn't do well in game 5?
Well, I think the biggest thing, the adjustments the Celtics made, obviously getting Porzingis out of there because he's just been god awful. That illness, the upper respiratory illness, long COVID, mono, whatever it is, nobody knows what it is. He just hasn't been worthy of being on the court, right? And everybody in Celtics Nation has been asking Mazzulla to get him off the court. And Mazzulla has completely blown this series. He's been awful the whole time. Thibodeau's completely outcoached him. And this game 5, was the first time that I felt like Mazzulla started to get in his bag a little bit because he had to, right? He had to get creative without Tatum out there. And they were just like very small adjustments. The Luke Cornett aspect of the game was, one of the big ones in the second half there. But I actually kind of want to start something really small. If you think back to games 2 or game 3, when Bridges went crazy in the fourth quarter, right? When Brunson and Towns were out and they put the ball in Bridges' hands, and he was just able to get to his spots. Mikal Bridges is really good at just coming off of that high pick and roll, getting a little bit of space and attacking those gaps and get into that little 15-foot sweet midi, right? The Celtics decided to put Peyton Pritchard on Mikal Bridges. And you'd be like, why? Why are we putting our smallest guy in the court against a 6'7" wing? It's because Pritchard is one of the best screen navigators on the roster. And that's like his superpower on defense is you can't screen that guy. So he was not allowing Bridges to kind of get into those gaps and get into that space for that 15-footer. And to me, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, we're going to talk about Jalen Brunson and his antics at the beginning of the fourth quarter because I found them funny. But Bridges was the guy, right? He was killing us the last couple games, starting the fourth quarter when Brunson was out. Brunson, he started this fourth quarter and didn't last very long.
Yeah, look, Mikal Bridges has certainly been, one of the big brighter spots, I would say, in this series. Just because when you're looking at it from a star perspective, we have Brunson, we have Karl Anthony Towns. You're looking for that dynamic duo. They traded Cat because of that pick and roll to have the pick and pop to, counteract what the Celtics do. Now, as you mentioned, KP, as we've seen, KP's not healthy. He's dealing with some sort of illness. We still don't know what it is, but he hasn't been able to be himself on the court. But even with him off the court, I was expecting that we'd still get some threes up from Cat, and he hasn't been able to do that. But then filling that role, Mikal Bridges, he's stepped up in major ways this series, just helping the Knicks in, the fourth quarter, just defensively. He's been all over the place and lackluster game yesterday, but for the most part, he's had a solid series against the Celtics. But I definitely do agree with his like with your statement there that has been him. I think for like me from a Knicks perspective, one of the big things, man, that really bothers me is that from an offensive perspective, we're not getting Karl Anthony Towns enough touches. And
Mhm.
even when it comes to threes, it's like yesterday, you don't have Tatum. They've been putting a lot of wings on Karl Anthony Towns to just kind of stop him, make him think twice. Does he want to drive? Does he want to shoot the three? That's just really his two big go-tos, right? Not
Right.
real like before coming to the Knicks, he wasn't really that much of a post player, but now he has to play a lot more in the post just because that's the way Tom Thibodeau likes to run his offense and do such things, right? But when he gets to that, when he's at the top of the key and he has to make a decision, do I want to shoot the three or drive? You put a wing on him, makes him think twice. And now without Tatum, who was guarding him, right? And we've even seen Brown do some of that. But because you don't have Tatum now, I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity for us to go back to the pick and pop, use the pick and
Mhm.
roll, and just didn't see any of that. Instead, we had a lot more Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson pick and rolls, which, hey, they work from time to time. No issue with that. But I think offensively, that does bug me that we have this guy here to spread the floor, to open up lanes, and we're not doing that. And you just see that for the Celtics, they've been able to clog the paint and just make
Mhm.
it much more difficult for the Knicks to score. I've been saying that it feels like watching for the Knicks offense, it's like watching gears grind, where it's not aesthetically pleasing. If they do score in bunches, it's because they're getting steals, they're scoring out in transition. But other than that, it's been tough to watch the Knicks offense. That's one of my takeaways from yesterday in this series.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into a game 6 preview, but in game 5, if you're looking at some of the things that the Celtics were able to survive from the Knicks, right? Josh Hart hitting 5 3-pointers, that doesn't happen very often. Mitchell Robinson perfect from the line, that doesn't happen very often. By the way, I love how much Knicks fans are just like getting behind Mitch at the free throw line. I feel so bad for the guy. Like when
Hey,
he
he went
missed
6 of 6 yesterday. That was the
I
best.
dude, good for him. Honestly, like not good for the Celtics, but good for him, man. Like he needed that. And I think when the Celtics are daring Josh Hart to like have to be Superman and put on his cape, that's where we want to be, right? And being able to play Luke Cornett off of Josh Hart and just have him roam. And I thought Cornett's ability to I don't surprise everybody on the Knicks just with the fact that he was completely ignoring Josh Hart. I didn't understand how the Knicks didn't pick up on Cornette just completely ignoring Josh Hart for the entire second half. Those 7 blocks, a lot of them, he had a couple on Hart, but a lot of them were him just, back completely turned to Hart. And then Carl Towns doesn't see him, just like an easy block. OG Anunoby doesn't think he's going to get to a shot, easy block. Jalen Brunson, who's normally just like nails of driving to his right hand with that little floater, Cornette's just standing there and blocks, leads to transition buckets. And a lot of those blocks were live ball blocks too, right? Where that led to Celtics transition and we're able to just get out and get what we wanted to get. But yeah, the Knicks offense, man, you guys have the best closer and you've had the best player in this series. Like Brunson outplayed Tatum until Tatum got hurt. Obviously, Tatum was having an awesome game, but Brunson's been by far, in my opinion, the best player in the series. And when you have that, even when it gets to grinding gears, it's not like the Celtics are doing much better on the other end. Game 5 was the exception where we decided to actually trust the pass and passing the basketball. What a revolutionary idea, right? And that's what the Celtics decided to do without Jason Tatum on court.
And let's talk about the Celtics now, man, because I can talk about the defense and just say, I didn't like that we're leaving guys wide open from three, considering how prolific of a three-point shooting team and how much of a high volume three-point shooting team the Celtics are. But when I look at the Celtics, it's funny. I was talking to my mother-in-law yesterday, and like she's big into sports, and we're talking like, hey, this is an opportunity for the Celtics right now, and she's like, this in sports in general doesn't matter what level. Star player goes down, adrenaline rushes, momentum starts to shift, guys start to elevate their game out of nowhere, and then next thing you know, it's that team that's more likely than not about to overcome and do the unexpected, which is beat the team that is fully healthy, has a star, and that's what the Celtics did yesterday. And look, they still have a star. They still got Olympians. They got Drew Holiday. They got Derek White. You got Jalen Brown. You still have talent outside of Tatum going down. I know that's your best player. You lose your best player, but it's not like the Celtics are not still don't have talent in this series. So it's not like it was too far off to even expect that, but in the manner and how they did it, which was so different from what the prior games were too. It's
Mhm.
like, man, I actually kind of miss Tatum just going ISO right now, stopping the ball a little bit. Now you got Peyton Pritchard crashing downhill, looking for open guys, just spraying around on the corner, and he could shoot the three ball as well. And he's probably been the toughest cover just because of his speed and his agility. And just for yesterday, I'm like, I tweeted this out. So I'm like, the Knicks have to come correct in this matchup. You cannot let a team that just lost their best player enter this matchup and play with the emotion. And look, there's a lot of emotion. As you know, because you cover the team, this team is not probably going to be all together at the end of this year. That's playing in a factor where it's like this could be their last game together and at TD Garden itself. So why not go balls to the wall and try to outperform the Knicks and win something in front of the home crowd and show who you are? Jalen
Right.
Brown has stuff to prove just because trade rumors. It's always, oh, we're going to keep Tatum. Brown's going to be gone. Well, let me show you why I'm still here and why I got finals MVP, right? And then everybody else just elevating their game because they lost their guy, Tatum. So it's not surprising, aggravating as a Knicks fan, surely aggravating, but not surprising. And I guess where I'm leading with that is that do you expect that to transpire in the next game?
Well, um, short answer, no. Just because I think the Knicks have a full 48 minutes of tape now, right? They weren't prepared for the Celtics to make all those adjustments, and the basic action the Celtics ran were just go screens. And when we have somebody like Peyton Pritchard, right, for the audience, Peyton Pritchard sprinting up to Jalen Brown. And instead of setting that screen, he slips out to the wing, right? And he just kind of goes off. And you're forcing the defense there. You're forcing the Knicks to make a decision and to communicate how they want to do that. Are they going to hedge? Are they going to Batuta the ball? Are they going to automatic switch that, the go screen? Because you're kind of just like touching them and then making them think, do I have to switch or not? That was a play when Jason Tatum was on the court that Tatum wasn't making the pass. He wasn't making the easy play. He was like, oh, sweet. I got the switch I wanted. Let me now get into my bag. Right. In this game, the Celtics decided to just trust that extra pass. Jalen Brown, who's, been a black hole for a large part of his career, like even assist to turnover ratio, had 12 assists to 2 turnovers in the last game. He was unbelievable. Like, we haven't seen Jalen Brown with the opportunity to trust his teammates and let the offense run through him, because he's always had to serve as a play finisher because Tatum is the guy that always has the ball in his hands, right? And when you ask Jalen Brown to, carry the offense for 3-minute stretches when Tatum's on the bench, it's a little bit different than being like, hey, Jalen, this is your game. Like, this is your floor game. The game is going to be the pace of this game is dictated how you want it to be dictated. And he started from the very beginning of the game. He just said, I am going to trust my teammates. One of the first plays of the game, right? He drives in transition, left-handed on Anunoby, jump stop at the free throw line. 4 guys come to Jalen Brown because they think he's probably going to shoot that midi, turns around wide open. I think it was a Derek White 3 that just got the Celtics going. And were the Knicks ever planning on guarding Derek White in transition?
I mean, man, don't get me started on transition. Now you really want to talk about the defense? Look, man, two of the biggest weaknesses for this Knicks team is guarding out in transition and also just rotating when it comes to and protecting the 3-point line. I mean, they've done a good job this series switching, and that's helped them, which haven't really seen them do during the regular season. But last night, different lineup. You don't have Tatum out there. Probably thinking, hey, we probably don't have to be as aggressive as we were. But even still, you could see guys were just not communicating well. Derek White just left wide open for seven threes that he was able to drill. I mean,
Wide open, dude.
it was like, and there was more. What did he take? 11 or 13 attempts? I can't even remember. But it was like, I think he went 7 for 13 from downtown. That's what it was. He went 7 to 13 from downtown, only took 16 shots. 13 of those 16 were 3-pointers. And I'm like, are we just, going to leave guys open? Even the one for Jalen Brown where everybody, and I mean everybody, there are 10 guys on the court. 9 of them were just watching Jalen Brown in the right corner, just, take a sip of that lemonade, bounce the ball, then just put up a three. I'm like, all right, man. So nobody's gonna rush out there and guard anybody. And so it was just that type of night for the Knicks where it was defensively, it was just awful. And to me, that's not even surprising because this team is so Dr. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like one night you're like, wow, we can really beat anybody. We are the
Mhm.
best thing since sliced bread. And then other nights are like, how are we even here? How are we even a 51 team when we start doing these things? And that's where I'm at yesterday. It's like, it's a very abusive relationship, man. That's all it is. It's a very abusive relationship. But hey, such is the life.
I think you guys are in a good spot though, man. Like obviously with Jalen playing one of his best games, Derek White hitting 7 3-pointers. Like if the Knicks are going to leave him open, I think the Celtics, I think that's a repeatable performance from Derek White. I don't think the Luke Cornett performance is repeatable. Jalen Brown, we haven't seen him have to function in this, facilitator role much at all in his career. So that's new to him. But he looked great, man. Like when the Celtics were running that stack pick and roll where Cornette was, getting the back screen from Pritchard and Pritchard's just popping out. Jalen hits Cornette with that ridiculous alley-oop. And one of the things that with Tatum, right? He for his entire career has struggled with OG Anunoby. Anunoby has always had him measured, even dating back to his time on the Raptors. If you look at Tatum's box scores, those were always low field goal attempts, high assist games from Jason Tatum, high potential assist games from Jason Tatum, because OG just hasn't measured. Jalen, for some reason, OG doesn't give him as many problems as OG gives Tatum. And that was one of my biggest issues was Tatum was just going at OG just in moments where we didn't need to. Like all the times I was asking, like, can we just not bring OG into action? Like, like that's the worst case scenario for the Celtics when Tatum's on the court. But when Tatum's off the court and Jalen kind of takes away the Knicks' weird superpower of being able to neutralize Tatum with OG doesn't play as well against Jalen. So it's just a strange match. Styles makes fights, and for some reason, like they kind of Jalen has the length, he has the strength and athleticism where OG doesn't bother him as much, even though you think he might because his handle's so weak. Yeah, but it was, one of those things where I think one more thing the Celtics did, they attacked Brunson more, right? We've been attacking Towns far too much, and Towns has been good because the Celtics have not been bending the defense before attacking Towns. It's like, oh, we get a switch on Towns. Knicks are set up in basically boxes and elbows. Jalen Brown dribbles back to half court and then tries to go full head of steam at Towns, and Towns is just able to play him to help. Like any serviceable big man can play somebody to help when you're in boxes and elbows against a set defense, right? I think when you attack Brunson, it's a little bit different. And you saw him get in foul trouble. He had his hand in the cookie jar a few too many times last night, and he just didn't really play a smart game. I think Brunson is a really smart defender. He's one of my favorite point guards to watch. 3 years ago, before he had this glow up, I said he was a better point guard. I said he was the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. He's a better point guard than John Morant before all John Morant's issues. I love Jalen Brunson. I'm a huge Jalen Brunson fan. And he played bad last night, man. I think like that's the reality
Oh,
of it.
for sure.
I didn't think he played well, and I thought in the fourth quarter I want to get to this because I told my buddy that I would, who's a big Knicks fan. Like it seemed like he was so frustrated with how he was being officiated on defense that he let that affect his offensive game. He comes into the fourth quarter with 5 fouls, and he just first possession, he goes full speed into Derek White's chest and like says, all right, you're either going to call me for a charge and I'm getting out of here, or you're going to give me the whistle. And when he got that whistle, then he was just like full on, I'm going to just bait the referees. I'm going to bait the referees. I'm going to bait the referees until he then got his hand caught in the cookie jar again because he wasn't playing a smart game. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Like, what did you guys think of Brunson's performance? I called it borderline embarrassing the way that he was starting the fourth quarter, just like trying to bait the referees. And that's where my Knicks friend got really upset with me because he said, you know what's embarrassing? The Celtics performance, like Jalen Brown's performance, Jason Tatum's performance. I was like, all right, man, it's like not that deep. Like I think you could make an argument that like the way he performed in that game was a little embarrassing.
So I'll say this is that look, when I watched Jalen Brunson had a bad game yesterday. There's no sugarcoating it. Okay. Like he started off fine. But the way that, and look, there were some questionable calls yesterday. I'm not gonna say the refs, like I'm not blaming the refs. I don't blame the refs, but there's some calls, but that happens, right? There's calls like even for the Celtics. I'm not necessarily one always looking for like how the opposing team is always being called. I'm sure the same thing for you. Like you're more hyper focused on your team and how they're
Yeah.
playing. And sure, look, refs
You
are going
guys
to make
got 40
mistakes
free
all the time.
throws last
Yeah,
night, right?
yeah. It's
40
like
free throws.
it is what it is, man. But to get to your point about Brunson, like it wasn't a smart game, and just like how he was defending even in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the fouls that he was getting, it's like Do you really need to swipe right now? Like, why are you swiping somebody going down the lane? Do you really want to close out on somebody that aggressively where you just got the call the night before because Jaylen Brown stepped out? You put your foot, you put your foot on his ankle because he was in your space. Now you're trying to do the same thing to like Derek White and all these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't playing a very smart game, to your point. So for me, that second half was just abysmal. And I felt like part of it was just after that whole incident with Josh Hart and Jaylen Brown and grabbing you know what and the pushing and shoving. And it's like, all right, man.
I didn't see the grab at first. Yeah, that was a little
Yeah,
questionable out of
hey,
Taylor.
man. It's very questionable, man. Very questionable. But hey, we're not going to talk about it. All right. This is a family show. But after that whole incident and you start seeing Josh Hart getting angry, and then it went from like, all right, team basketball to now Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson have a vendetta. And it's like, all right, and look, even throughout this entire series, you've seen there's a little tension between both Jalen's, between Brown and Brunson. There's been a little bit of tension, and it was taken on hard yesterday. And so there's a little animosity building up. And so I felt like
Just good, man. We
they
need that.
sure, absolutely. I don't disagree with it. But when it gets too much to your head and you're like start thinking that you take it personal and not think about the team aspect,
Mhm.
right? And I'm sure you play pickup ball, I play pickup ball, and some people try to bait you and be like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do this, and like start chirping in your ear. It's like, all right, do I want to be that guy and show that I can do this and take on like seven opponents where it's like, or do you want to like just make the right play, right? And so Brunson didn't do that. And then to your point, entering that fourth quarter while making like some questionable defensive decisions in the third, he was just like, what are you going to do at this point? He's starting the quarter. You need him to close. And it's either, are they going to give me my calls now
Mhm.
offensively, which I'm like, that's a risky gamble because you got five fouls. If you get an offensive foul and, if you draw a charge, if someone draws a charge, you're out. You're done. You can't play your game anymore. That's over. You're over with. But the way that he got the foul, I'm like, why are you just being over aggressive for no reason? Like your team needs you. You're down by 20. This is not the time to be over aggressive on defense with five fouls. So he didn't have a great game. Um, to your point, like, was it like him just like I would say he got more. I would say it's a little arrogant.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, like it was a little arrogant the way that he was trying to
A
like.
little entitled
Yeah,
almost.
I wouldn't say entitled, but a little arrogant. I wouldn't
Okay,
go
okay,
entitled. I
okay.
feel like entitled
Okay.
means like I deserve this, and
Yeah.
like watching him throughout the entire season, he doesn't really get calls like that, man. I know everyone likes to say flopper and all that stuff. You
Yeah.
watch some of these calls during the regular season, I'm like, holy cow, what do we have to do around here, man, for this man to get a call? Like he gets beat.
Mm.
And it's like, I wouldn't go like as far as entitled, but like I would say arrogant because it's just like he's like, I'm gonna do whatever at this point. Not
Yeah,
thinking
and
that he's gonna get the call, but I'm gonna do whatever I feel like.
for sure. And like, I don't even think in general, this series, I don't think he's been flopping, right? I thought at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he was flopping. Like he was just baiting the referees and just be like, you're going to call it or you're not. But I'm going to try and get it. I'm going to try and get to the free throw line. I'm going to get my team back in the game at the free throw line. I think for the most part in this series, he's just been the best player. Right. It's just like he hasn't need to go to the quote unquote unethical hoops at all. He's just been like balling and he's completely taken games from the Celtics when the Celtics could have easily like this series could be over in favor of the Celtics if the Celtics just didn't shit the bed in games 1 and 2, right? And like I don't know what the hell happened with the Celtics, but maybe there's a world in which Jason Tatum's injury is waking them up enough where we can have a competitive game 6. And that's what I'm looking forward to, man.
Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning for another game preview. We are previewing game 6 of the New York Knicks facing the Boston Celtics. They are playing at Madison Square tomorrow at 8 p.m. Make sure to tap in. And look, if you don't want to go, if you can't go to Madison Square Garden tomorrow, we're hosting a watch party back at Slate. Doors open at 6. Make sure to get your tickets at KnicksFanTV.com. All right. Or just show up, man. Just show up. You can just do that too. All right. So make sure to go hang out with the Orange and Blue Faithful. With me on the other side is my guy, Greg Maneikis. He covers the Boston Celtics for Green with NB podcast, part of that Blue Wire family. So make sure to go check him out. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right. Let's keep it rolling, man. Let's keep it rolling. So, Greg, like what let's start getting into one more question before we start
Yeah.
really breaking into this series. Just let me pull up one more thing real quick. Uh for this game tomorrow, I already asked you about the energy and so forth. Who are you looking for? Who are you looking forward to in having a big game tomorrow before we really break this thing down?
I think we need Drew Holiday. We haven't had a Drew Holiday game for the Celtics, and he I think he's been really good on Brunson. I think one of the biggest issues in what was it in game four, where in the third quarter, for whatever reason, the Celtics just took Drew Holiday off Jalen Brunson. And there was that like one stretch. I think it was when the Celtics were actually up 14, and then Brunson has like three straight possessions where he just does his thing. And it was all the Celtics just lacking game plan discipline, right? We lose him in transition one time. He attacks Al Horford. Then Jalen Brown to the your point earlier of kind of getting in his space where Brunson does that. His natural shooting motion, he swings his left leg forward, right? So like as a defender, you have to know that he's entitled to that space. But in those moments, Drew Holiday needed to be on Jalen Brunson. He hasn't really been an effective defender on Bridges at all for whatever reason. He hasn't figured out Bridges' rhythm. But I thought he's been really good on Jalen Brunson. And last game, Jalen Brown decided it was his responsibility to guard Jalen Brunson 94 feet, which I loved. He really set the tone on offense and on defense. And that should have theoretically opened up a little bit more energy for Drew Holiday to do more on the offensive end, but then he got in foul trouble, right? So
Mhm.
he was kind of unable to do that. I think it was trending towards being a Drew Holiday game. It didn't need to be. And if the Celtics want to hang around with the Knicks, I think Drew Holiday has to have, I would say, 18 to 20 points, a couple 3-pointers, and a great defensive game on either Brunson or Towns.
Okay, Drew Holiday's your guy. For me tomorrow, whew, going with OG Anunoby, man. I like, and it's not. I look. I know some probably are saying, "Hey, we need a Karl Anthony Towns game." At this point, I don't know when we're gonna get it. We're at game six at this point, and the clock is still ticking. And look, and this is not to like besmirch what Cat has done. Like he's had moments throughout the series, whether it's putbacks, playing some decent defense against Jason Tatum. Like he's had his moments, but need a complete game from him. You know what I mean? Like you're brought in here to be that dude, and like I'm looking for that scoring punch, especially from three. But I'm going with OG Anunoby. And the reason is, I thought defensively yesterday he looked lost, and I'm like, we can't have OG looking lost on the court defensively. That's
Mhm.
crazy. And then on top of that, he wasn't really involved in the offense just because, as we discussed, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson decided to take the third quarter into their own hands, and then he gets frozen out. He's not able to knock down threes, not able to build confidence and rhythm. And so then he's completely, taken out of the game. And even when you start seeing him, try to tween, try to just, drive the lane, it's like you haven't really gotten warmed up to do that yet. And so now you're giving Luke Cornett and other guys opportunities to meet you at the rim and stop you. So I'm looking for him to have a bounce back game because we need him to just put up those 20 points. Like when he scores 20 points, as of right now, when he scores 20 points, it's just going to be a good night for the Knicks just because he can be a wrecking ball the way that he drives the lane. He just puts more pressure on the rim just by his dunking ability. And then obviously, well, the defense, he just makes life 10 times harder for anybody that's guarding. And so when you have him being fully locked in for, I know he doesn't play 48 minutes, even though I know Tom Thibodeau would love for him to play 48 minutes. When he's locked in the entire game defensively and just switching and just imposing his strength, his wingspan on other players, like and at all five players on the Celtics, then it's going to be a good time for the Knicks in keeping up with pace for the Celtics. And just one more thing before we really get into this, man. I forgot to do shout out to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. People, let me tell you what I love about Underdog Fantasy. I like to think I know a little bit more than what Underdog is telling me. All right. So when I start to see, what the lines are and say, hey, 25 and a half for Jalen Brunson. Ooh, Derek White now. Now, look, you can't go crazy and say, hey, you got to expect the expected at some point. Derek White's going to put up threes. And so if they're going 3.5, I may go a little higher on that too. So when they're giving you opportunities, you just got to take it, man. But the cool thing about Underdog Fantasy is that you can either create a ticket or do the fantasy draft. So when you're creating a ticket, all you got to do is just choose 2 to 8 players. And it doesn't have to be in the same league. So you can mix and match from hockey, basketball, baseball. You can mix and match, even soccer. And all you got to do is just choose higher or lower on any stat that they give you. So let's say, like I said, for tomorrow, maybe you get Josh Hart for rebounds over 6.5. That's easy. You're going to take that. You know Josh Hart can get up to double digits. Say higher on that one. And that's all you have to do. And the more people and the more players you choose, the higher the earnings are. And the cool thing is that if you don't believe all your picks are going to hit, you can go the insured route. So let's say you chose, I don't know, five. Maybe they give you the option for either hitting on three or four, and that way you can still earn some cash in the end. Now, if you don't want to do the ticket, you can go do the fantasy draft, put on your GM cap, face a bunch of randos, go compete with your friends, put down some beer money, and see who can draft the best team and win because you're just that locked into your sport. You just know who's going to perform on any given night. All right. And so that's the whole point. So make sure to go support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. All right, Greg. I just had to shout out the sponsor of today's show. So just had to
Killed it,
get that
man.
in there.
You had me pumped.
Now you're gonna go down with some
Yeah.
underdog, man. Now you're gonna do some guesses. Let's do it. All right, man. Let's break down this game six, man. It's anticipated, highly anticipated from a Knicks perspective. Like I said, this will be the first. If we do this tomorrow, it'll be the first time since 1999 that we've moved on to the Eastern Conference Finals, winning on our own home court. Now, for the Celtics, on the other hand, you lose Jason Tatum. You're still trying to extend this because you guys believe you got a chance and you want to bring this thing back to Boston. What are you looking for as adjustments from a Celtics standpoint? Is there anything that Joe Mazzulla is doing, or are you just going to roll out the same thing and say, "Hey, it worked yesterday. Let's see if it works tomorrow"?
Here's a question I have for you, because I think one of the things with adjustments is you kind of have to anticipate what the other team is going to adjust to, right? From
Mhm.
what you just did. Because the Knicks, they just got punched in the mouth. They're the ones that's going to have to make the adjustment, right? Do you guys ever go zone?
No, what?
Never?
Never.
Okay.
That is
So
not a thing. No.
okay, because that was the one thing as I was kind of watching the game, I was like, there's got to be something that you guys can throw at us to slow this down a little bit, because the Celtics really struggle against zones. We get stagnant, and I think that would be something I would. I mean, it sounds like you're not going to do it, but that would be something I'd be looking for. The other thing is just like the matchups, right? So Bridges is your guy that kind of chases guys around screens, right? He's your best screen navigator on the team. He's been guarding Derek White to some degree. OG has got the Jaylen Brown matchup right now. I'm just wondering if maybe there's like some sort of switch where Bridges actually takes the Jaylen matchup and OG takes the Derek White matchup. I don't know how good of a screen navigator OG is, and I don't know if you want him running all those extra miles. But that's just one thing that kind of came to mind. I think for the Celtics, though, Drew Holiday, I think he has to have a big game. Sam Hauser's reinsertion back into the lineup on offense opened up a lot of things for the Celtics. He's that extra chess piece that you can kind of move around, and he's that extra movement shooter. Like Pritchard is a really good shooter, but he's not as much of a movement shooter as Hauser is. He's not great at running off of like floppy action and coming wide off, getting his body turned and being able to shoot kind of like off balance. Sam Hauser's always able to do that. And a couple things that really stood out to me, they happened relatively close to each other in the game. It was that little pistol action, the 21 action on the side where Drew Holiday goes dribble handoff to Sam Hauser, empty side in the corner, right? And then he slips out for a layup. Sam Hauser hits him over OG. And then after that Luke Cornett block in the corner on Josh Hart, he saves it. Celtics are in transition, and we end up with like a little grenade action, which is kind of the inverse of what had just happened with Luke Cornett handing the ball to Hauser and slipping out. And then Hauser found him again for that dunk. And the gravity that Sam Hauser has on the court, I think the Knicks overreact to that, and I think the Knicks overreact to Peyton Pritchard on his gravity as well. So how can the Celtics continue to move those chess pieces around, bend the Knicks defense, and not have to go up against a boxes and elbows set defense? So that's kind of where I'm thinking is how can we continue to stretch the floor, bend the defense, and utilize our movement shooters just to create a little bit more space.
Well, yesterday you started KP. I mean, it's just Peyton Pritchard. Honestly, like it really. And look, I agree with the effect of Sam Hauser being back in the lineup. I was like, even I was. It's not necessarily like, oh my God, Sam Hauser's back, but to your point, it's you have another chess piece as you mentioned, and just his insertion, another guy that can just knock down threes. That's the last thing we need. It's like now we got to worry about more guys shooting threes, and that's the one thing about the Celtics where, Brown and Tatum can certainly shoot threes. Are they your best 3-point shooters? Not necessarily. But when you have Hauser, Pritchard, Derek White, when those guys are shooting lights out like they were yesterday, then it just creates even more problems because now it's like, all right, now we got to worry about the stars who can shoot threes. But now
Mhm.
you got role players that if we got to focus on these guys getting downhill, they can just spray it out to anybody on the perimeter and they'll be knocking down threes like there's no tomorrow. And so for you're talking about the answer is Peyton Pritchard, and he's just like I said, he's been causing havoc just because of his speed, his agility, and for the Knicks standpoint, if that's what the Celtics go with, a Peyton Pritchard starting at the point, then I need to see Deuce McBride out there because he's our best
Mhm.
perimeter defender, and you're gonna have to keep up with that agility. And there's not really anybody Bridges did an okay job. Pritchard has this quick. We know he has a good handle. We know he's able to draw the ball back out and just get behind the perimeter and start causing guys to be off balance and then quickly attack the lane where there's no lane to begin with. And so, yes, could Bridges do it with his wingspan? Sure, but I think the best option is to use Deuce, which was also what frustrated me yesterday is that the lineup that closed against the Celtics that did a great amount of damage had Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride.
Mhm.
And we didn't really utilize those two guys yesterday as much. And I know that foul trouble dictated, what Tom Thibodeau had to use for rotations and when to deploy guys. But I think Deuce McBride would be that answer. And then it would be also Mitchell Robinson and using him defensively just because he's been the best plus in this series. Every time he's out on the floor, it's just a positive. I mean, our starting lineup with Cat at the 5 has just been awful. It's a negative. It's constantly outscored. And having Mitchell Robinson, I think having Deuce out there will answer what the Celtics are trying to do, which is go small, try to cause a lot of chaos with speed. And now, why don't we equalize that saying, hey, here's our rim protector. You got to think twice if you want to attack the lane and try to put up a shot over him because he can block it. And then to slow things down, you need Deuce McBride on that perimeter because he's one of our best guys to fight over screens. He's going to stick to the hip. He's going to do all those things. That's why if I'm Tom Thibodeau and I just saw this game tape, those are the guys I got to rely on a lot tomorrow. And I got to figure out what combination am I having at least one of those guys out in the court. It's either because you get McBride's not only his defense, but his 3-point shooting, and for Mitchell Robinson, it's just that lob threat and just the offensive rebounding and limiting Celtics possessions. So
Mhm.
it's got to be something like that for the Knicks tomorrow.
So does that come at the expense of Josh Hart minutes?
This is a conversation, man, that's been tried and true this entire season, man. It's do we put Josh Hart back on the bench? And look, man, sometimes he need a little bit less Josh Hart. And yesterday was his best game. I mean, yesterday was it's crazy. Josh Hart knocks down 5 threes, and I've seen this all going throughout Twitter. Shout out to JD, shout out to Andrew Claudio over at Knicks Film School. Josh Hart knocks down 5 threes. Mitchell Robinson hits all of his free throws, yet we lose by 25 points. Make that make sense.
Yeah.
If you told me that was the night that we were about to have, I'm like, damn, we must have won by 40.
And you were 32 for 40 from the line.
Craziness. Absolute craziness. So that obviously didn't happen. But I think for in this case, if Josh Hart doesn't have it, because I thought he had a great game two, and he's been okay. He was not great in game three. He was very erratic in game four. I was like, a lot of us were saying, thank God he got into foul trouble because it
Mm.
gave us that lineup of Deuce and Mitch.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, less Hart minutes is fine because as he showed in the second half, after knocking down 5 threes, right, and being confident with his shot, it's like, all right, now I'm going to be hesitant. I'm going to pump fake and drive. And it's like, no, man, you're fine. You're shooting your threes very well. Stay confident, believe in your shot. And then what are you going to do? Just drive and then let Luke Cornett block you? So if it comes to the expense of limiting Josh Hart minutes so that way we can get more Deuce and Mitch, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and coming into this series, I didn't know who like I thought Tatum was the best player. I thought Brunson was the best closer and second best player in the series. And then I thought it was going to be really interesting to see who would be the third best, fourth best, fifth best, so on. And I thought from the first 3 games of the series, maybe the first 4 games of the series, no, first 3, because Tatum ended up going crazy in game 4. I thought like the four of the top five guys in the series were Knicks, and I thought the one Celtic that was in the top five there was Holiday. I don't know like how you felt as Knicks fans, but just like watching the Celtics every single day, I thought Tatum was playing like dog shit, and I thought Jaylen Brown was playing like dog shit. So you know, it, with Josh Hart, when my buddy Liptak came on our podcast, the one who was upset that I called Jalen Brunson's flopping embarrassing. We were talking, we were kind of previewing like what am I scared of on the Knicks team? Am I scared of the Cat 3? Yes, but I'm actually more scared of the Josh Hart offensive rebound that leads to
Mm.
the Cat 3. Like Josh Hart, for some reason, he's just one of those guys that like strikes fear into Celtics Nation just because of his like hustle. He's like always going to make those little plays that just are the back breaking plays, right? But you see the limitations with him in game 5 where we're just like, you know what? We're going to guard him with our center and we're going to play our center in the paint and we're going to dare him to shoot. And then when he hits 5 threes, now we just kind of close out, sort of like half heartedly close out at him. And then he's going to drive into no man's land. Right. So, as much as he has kind of scared me in the past, if I'm a Knicks fan, that's the guy I want off the court. I don't think I want much of Josh Hart in game 6 if he's not going to have the impact that he had on the offensive glass, because he had one offensive rebound in game 5, and it was after Luke Cornett blocked his shot and the ball just ended up back in his hands. That was his only offensive rebound. He didn't make an impact other than the 5 threes. Celtics fans are fine with him shooting 5 threes, right? That's what we want to happen, is Josh Hart to have the game in his hands. We don't want Jalen Brunson to go full supernova, because that terrifies me. Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter is my worst nightmare right now. Anything Karl Towns in the post, I'm okay with.
Mm.
I mean, I'm totally fine with that. I'm not scared of that. Like he's the what was it, game 1 or game 2, where he had that complete meltdown at maybe the beginning of the third quarter, I think it was, where you went to Towns like 4 straight possessions. He had turnovers, offensive fouls. They sit his ass down. And you go on that big run when I think OG started with that 3-pointer, right? So, yeah. Long story short, Josh Hart, I think, is the guy that needs to see less minutes.
Interesting. And so, like, it's interesting that you don't want to see him because of his rebounding, which, that he's like Dennis Rodman in that sense, where he's just a phenomenal rebounder. Obviously, Rodman was an actual forward. Josh Hart is a shooting guard that's just, they can easily get to double digits in rebounds and just extend possessions. But it's tough because what he offers, and you want to make sure like you measure it right. And I know he's done a great job this season, and especially at the beginning of the season, like he's really impactful. You can't take away what he does, man. He does all the gritty things that you need. But in this series, like his most of the time he's matched up with Jaylen Brown, not a good matchup for him. Jaylen Brown just uses his height over him, shoots over him. Very tough physical matchup for him. Rebounding has been decent. He's even when he's not grabbing the ball, he is like making sure he just gets it to somebody else, right? Or just like causes enough chaos where a Celtic can't get it and somebody's able to get it in
Right.
there and and it's like get like playing rugby, right? Getting the ball out of the scrum. It's like, all right, there we go. And like
Mm-hmm.
we're back in business. And so we want Josh Hart minutes like in like a very efficient and like constructive way. And there's times where it's just not constructive, where it's just like, all right, now it's actually impacting the offense. Now it's actually impacting what we should be doing out here to create more space for Brunson to attack, especially when Josh Hart's not shooting the ball well. I mean, the biggest thing that he gives you is when he grabs the rebound, he can go out and transition and just score by himself.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, not a lot of guys can do on this team and do it at such a high rate that he can. And that's the balancing act that you have with Josh Hart on this team. It's like you need him out there for these things that he does so well, but if he would only was as confident in his shots as he was yesterday, consistently, maybe he gets more time. But
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be interesting how Tibbs manages that tomorrow. I think the last thing for the Knicks is that I talk about defense, offensively, we just got to get back into a rhythm. I know fourth quarter is going to last 5 minutes. Jalen Brunson is going to have the rock in his hand. That's no question about that. It's how do we make it easy for the Knicks moving forward? And it's not been easy. I know they got to get steals and go out and transition and get easy buckets for sure. But it's been more of the fact that, as I said earlier, it's like watching gears grind. And earlier this season, when you work the pick and roll, you can find Cat is able to work the high post then after you're doing that, and he can find OG cutting, you can find Bridges cutting, you can find Hart cutting, And we haven't really had any of that since like January. And it's really been a slugfest to score with Towns out there. Like just looking for that, just because we're not getting enough threes from him to space the floor
Hmm.
or even doing enough pick and rolls to get him back in that positioning. So I need that to happen, especially since there's no Tatum. Like, just figure out a way to work all the angles of the court. We're not doing that. And I would like to see that happen tomorrow because I feel like once that gets going, as what you talked about, how the Celtics have to just cause chaos and have the defense collapse, that creates a Celtics defense to scramble when now you're getting backdoor cuts for easy lanes. Now you're making guys think twice, like, am I missing somebody? And then when you just turn your head for a second, someone else is getting open on the perimeter. Oh no, someone else is cutting. Oh no, there's a pass flying by. And all those other shots and all those other opportunities are being created. So I need that from the Knicks tomorrow, man. I keep asking for that, haven't gotten it, but hopefully that changes for tomorrow.
I got
Yeah.
one more question for you. Who do you think deserves to win this series?
Come on, man.
Like, I don't think the Celtics deserve to win the series, man.
I
I
think
think
that look, I that's I'm very intrigued that you say that, and I want that's even a bigger thing to dive into before we get out of here because I feel like I would say the Knicks deserve to win it just because of how gutsy it's been, and I would say it from the standpoint not only being a fan but the way that the Celtics dominated the Knicks this season, and it's like holy cow, it's like even entering into this matchup is like I chose Knicks in 7. Hopefully they do it in 6. But it's like, the way that they've gotten here, again, the first 2 wins in Boston, and then the way they were able to, win game 4. I'm like, this team has really proven to me that it's not necessarily the regular season doesn't matter because it does show you trends. It does show you tendencies about your team and who they are to a certain degree. But anything could change in the playoffs. And I feel like from a team that I've saw multiple times get punched in the mouth and then just like curl up into a ball and say, nope, we're done. Not going to happen, especially against the top teams. The fact that I've watched them come back being down 14 plus points to win all 3 of their games, I'm like, all right, man,
yeah,
like this, I like, I have Celtics fans since like I live out here. I live out here in
yeah,
Boston.
yeah.
I live in your hometown. And I have Celtics fans telling me like, oh, there's not a game that the Knicks won. It's more so the Celtics lost, and I'm like, I hear you, but like at the same time, like the Knicks had to do something right in order to win. Like it's not like they were just gifted. Like some teams are
Still,
legit. Like some teams are gifted an opportunity to take the win,
yeah.
and they still mess it up, right? And so
Mhm.
the Knicks had to do something right. So I would go like I'm going to say the Knicks. I want to know why you're not thinking the Boston should deserve this.
You can't blow that many leads, man. Like
Mm,
this has been a trend for with this team over the past like 4 years, where when we get a 20-point lead, that's like the worst case scenario for the Celtics team because then we start playing with our food. We go ISO heavy. This is one of the issues with Tatum is that he plays with his food too much, man. And the fact that in game 5 we didn't have that guy to rely on, it just kind of freed everybody else up. So like there's still a world in which like the Celtics are I think here's the thing. The Celtics are a better team than the Knicks. I
mm.
truly believe that, but that doesn't mean they deserve to win the series. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like you can't blow that many leads and just be like, oh, like we're gonna be fine. We'll win it in 7. Like when Jaylen Brown, after the Celtics get 1 win in game 3, and he had the press conference where he was like, you got to beat us 4 times, not twice, not 3 times. You got to beat us 4 times. It's like, come on, Jaylen, we won 1 game, and then like that's the comment that you make. Like, like we're still behind. And then we end up losing game 4 because he didn't show up. Jaylen was terrible in game 4, but then he was awesome in game 5. So, yeah, I think if the Celtics play the way that they played in game 5 and they start believing in each other and trusting the extra pass and just like playing team basketball that Celtics fans love, then I can see that narrative start to flip even in my own brain where I'm like, okay, now the
Mm.
Celtics are taking this series by the horns. But I think it's delusional thinking to say that the Celtics gifted this series to the Knicks. The Knicks earned it, man. They came out and they stormed back. Jalen Brunson was the better closer. OG Anunoby was the best player through 2 games in the series. Mikal Bridges had 2 of the best fourth quarters I've ever seen him have. Cat, I know he drives you guys crazy, but he's averaging like 20 and 14 in the series. He was 11 for 15, I think, in game 4, and he's been good, man. Like he has his moments because he's Cat, but there are times where it's just, damn, like we can't do anything with this dude. So yeah, I think overall, I think the Knicks deserve the series, but I don't want you to win.
And on that note, Greg, I appreciate you coming through, man, and
Yeah, of
previewing this
course.
game with me, man. Please let the listeners know where they can find you if you got any work up and coming we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, so our podcast is called Green with Envy. Our handles are at Green Envy Pod. I live down here in Austin, Texas, so I'm actually in a band. We're called Black Sheep Optimists. So check our music out, and we get a new song coming out next month. So be on the lookout for that.
There you go. Shout out to Greg Maneikis. As always, man, make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to give Greg a follow, man. Support their show, man. They do phenomenal work. All right. They do phenomenal. You just heard Greg just spit bars and talking about plays and how the break down what the Celtics are doing, man. This guy does his homework, so make sure to go give him a follow, man. Look, Knicks Nation out here, I know they love listening to NBA talk in general, not outside of their team. So make sure to give this man a follow. And I know we got some Celtics fans in here too. I see all you in here. All right, see y'all chattering, saying Celtics got this, da 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 da, throwing the quovers in here and nonsense. All right, man. Welcome aboard. Welcome to KFTV and do what you got to do. But make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And remember, watch party tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Slate. Get there on time so you can get your drink swag on. Go join the Orange and Blue Faithful, not the Mets, the Knicks, all right? Subway Series is tomorrow. Yankees all day, baby. Make sure to go be there and go support Knicks Nation, all right? Shout out to Chuck D, the rhyme animal himself. Throw a hashtag PE in the chat. $5 super chat from Chuck. Appreciate you, Chuck. He said, can't play the best Knicks style of basketball in regular season. Been saying it. Oh, can't play the best Knicks style of basketball in regular season. Been saying it. Shout out to you, Chuck. Hey, man. Hopefully the Knicks come out tomorrow and do that. All right. Let's also shout out some
It's like the
franchise.
Chuck D.
The Chuck D.
Oh,
Public
damn.
enemy. Public enemy, sir.
Damn.
He is in the chat with us, rocking with
Legend.
us. The legend himself. Throw a hashtag PE in the chat if you haven't done so already. Shout out to all the regulars in here. I see KG Sevenfold in here. I see my guy. Shout out to Kane Marco for being a franchise channel member. Rare edition in here as always. Appreciate you, my guy. We got Danos in here. Danos 1993. Shout out to you. We got Albert Baez. Appreciate you
My
for being here
guy.
too.
Albert's down here in Austin, Texas. That's my guy.
Let's go. Let's see who else we got here, man. Let's see who else we got in here. Just scrolling through the chat. Who else we got in here? We got Nick him up. Shout out to Nick him up for being a franchise channel member. Kyle Dason, shout out to you for being a franchise channel member. Bomani UFG, shout out to you for being a franchise channel member. Flow 174, appreciate you for being here and being a franchise channel member as well. We got GOT Wise Guy. Appreciate both of you for being franchise channel members as well. All right, everyone. Appreciate you for tuning in as always. All right. You already know what's going to happen tomorrow. We got play-by-play, post-game. Make sure to stay tapped in. We'll catch you all tomorrow, man. All right?